For 27 years, this case had a clear story. 7 people, 7 confessions, 1 tragic ending. A nation moved on. The files were closed. The verdicts were final. And then, in 2019, one journalist received a package. Inside were cassette tapes nobody was supposed to ever hear. This is the part of the story the system tried to bury. If you missed episode 1, here's what you need to know. 1992, a small Brazilian beach town called Guaratuba. A 6-year-old boy disappeared on his way home from school. 5 days later, his body was found in the forest. Within 3 months, 7 people had been arrested, including the wife and daughter of the town's mayor, charged with ritual sacrifice. All 7 confessed. All 7 were eventually convicted. The man who received those tapes in 2019 was a Brazilian investigative journalist named Ivan Mizanzuc. He had been working on a podcast about the case for years. But what he received that day changed everything. The original unedited audio recordings from the night of the interrogations, July 1st, 1992. The version that had never made it into the official case file. For 27 years, the world had only heard the edited version. On the unedited tapes, you don't hear coherent confessions. You hear screaming. You hear someone being silenced mid-sentence. You hear pleading. You hear interrogators feeding the accused the answers they wanted. But the most devastating moment on the tapes comes from Beatriz Abaji, the mayor's daughter, 20 years old at the time. She tries to retract. She tries to explain. You can hear her saying, clearly, that none of it is true. And on the tape, you can hear the interrogators continuing anyway. If this is hitting you the way it should, leave a like before we continue. It tells me to keep digging into the cases nobody else is willing to cover. The 7 accused later described what happened in those rooms. Their accounts across all 7 match almost perfectly. They were taken to 2 locations repeatedly. The first was a mansion that had once belonged to a former South American dictator. By 1992, it was being used as a federal police base. The second location, even more disturbing, was a property reportedly owned by the cousin of the missing child. The same cousin who had originally pushed the ritual theory. The accused described a systematic process: coercion, sleep deprivation, repetition until exhaustion, methods inherited directly from the dictatorship that had ended only 7 years before. One of them described being threatened with being thrown off a bridge. Another described being shown a device they were told was a lie detector that delivered electric current every time he denied the accusation. But the most damning detail wasn't what was done to the accused. It was what was done to make their accounts impossible to believe. But this story has another child in it. A name we mentioned briefly in episode 1. Leandro Bossi, 7 years old. He disappeared in Guaratuba 2 months before the other case. His mother worked as a maid at a small hotel. His father was a fisherman working out at sea the day he vanished. Leandro was last seen near a stage during a public concert. And then, gone. A year after the 7 were arrested, a body was found in another forest near Guaratuba. The clothes, sandals, a shirt, were identified as Leandro's. His mother recognized them. The case seemed to be closing. Then a DNA test was performed. No one was ever charged for that. No one was ever even seriously investigated. A child had lost her life. Her body was used to stage the discovery of another missing child, and to this day, no one knows who she was. So, who is actually responsible? For 27 years, the official answer was the 7 who confessed. But once you stop accepting the confessions, the patterns in the case start pointing somewhere else. The cousin who pushed the ritual theory had political motives. He was a long-standing rival of the mayor's family. The state governor used the case to demonstrate political strength. He reportedly threatened to release the suspects to a public mob if the courts didn't deliver convictions fast enough. The military police unit that ran the interrogations was operating almost as a clandestine group within the police. The captain who led the sessions was later convicted of unrelated crimes. He lost his life in what authorities described as a settling of scores between gangs. The ones who didn't get what they wanted were the families of the children and the 7 people whose lives were destroyed to give Brazil a story that fit the panic of the moment. One of them, the spiritual practitioner, had to legally change his name after release. His son grew up bullied in school for a crime his father may never have committed. He later wrote a song about it. The unedited tapes are now public. The case has been formally requested for review. Some of the convictions have been challenged, but many of the people involved are now too old, or the legal deadlines have already passed. This is what happens when a country needs an answer faster than it needs the truth. 7 lives destroyed, 2 children whose disappearances were never truly resolved. Whoever was truly responsible, gone without a trace. If you made it this far, you already know what kind of channel this is. Hollow Files covers the cases everyone else got wrong. New episode every Friday. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if this case stayed with you, you know what to do.